Jesus, the God nerve opens monad, Archons Severed It. Jesus, the God nerve opens monad, Archons Severed It. Jesus, hidden. Within your physical body exists a direct communication channel to the monad that predates the Archon modifications to human biology. Jesus called it the pneumatic nerve, the sacred pathway, the golden thread connecting imprisoned consciousness to its divine source. Modern medicine stumbled upon this nerve accidentally and named it the vagus, from the Latin word meaning wanderer, because they could not understand its true purpose. They observed it travels from the brainstem down through the chest and into the belly, touching nearly every major organ, but they classified it as merely part of the autonomic system, controlling digestion and heart rate. They missed what Jesus taught 2,000 years ago. This nerve is the physical anchor point for the pneumatic spark. The vagus nerve is why pneumatic souls feel truth in their gut, why divine knowing registers as sensation in the chest, why the heart center becomes the focal point of spiritual practice across all genuine mystery traditions. This is not poetic metaphor. This is anatomical reality. The Archons understood the danger this nerve represented, a built-in escape route they could not remove without destroying the human vehicle entirely. So instead they damaged it, severed certain connections, calcified key junctions and implanted interference patterns that prevent most humans from ever discovering what flows through this channel when activated. Jesus spent considerable time teaching his inner circle how to restore the God nerve to its original function. The practices he revealed were not complex. The human body wants to reconnect to the monad. It is designed for this. The Archon modifications are grafted onto the surface. They can be bypassed. In the Nag Hammadi texts, there are references to the inner light that descends from above and rises from below, meeting in the middle. This describes the vagus nerve pathway, divine frequency entering through the crown of the skull, traveling down the spine, and pneumatic energy rising from the base, both streams converging at the heart where the God nerve serves as the integration point. Tonight you will learn the anatomy of this sacred channel, how the Archons damaged it and why. The 3 specific practices Jesus taught for reactivating the dormant connections, and what happens when pneumatic consciousness flows freely through the pathway that was always meant to carry it home. The vagus nerve in its original design functioned as a two-way transmission system. Divine intelligence from the monad could flow down into embodied consciousness, providing direct knowing, guidance, and connection to the pleroma, and the prayers, intentions, and awareness of the pneumatic soul could travel up through the same channel, reaching beyond the Archon-controlled spheres without their interception. This terrified the demiurge. He built the entire prison system on the premise that souls would be cut off from the divine source, isolated, alone, dependent on his false light for any sense of spiritual connection. But the vagus nerve bypassed his authority entirely. It was a hotline the Archons could not tap, so they deployed multiple strategies to sever this communication channel. The first attack came in infancy. The trauma of birth itself, especially in the harsh conditions the Archons engineered human civilization to maintain, creates the initial damage. The infant emerges from the womb into a cold, bright, loud environment. Hands roughly handling the delicate body, the umbilical cord cut prematurely. This shock to the nervous system creates a fracture in the vagus nerve's coherence. The communication line experiences its first static. The second attack is nutritional. The Archons manipulated food systems to exclude specific minerals and compounds the vagus nerve requires for optimal function. Magnesium deficiency alone cripples the nerve's conductivity. The modern diet, processed and depleted, ensures most humans never achieve the baseline nutrition needed for the God nerve to operate properly. The third attack is emotional. The vagus nerve responds to safety and relaxes in trust. But the Archons constructed civilization as perpetual stress. Financial pressure, social competition, constant threat. The nervous system remains in defensive mode indefinitely. And when the body perceives danger, the vagus nerve shuts down its higher functions to redirect energy toward survival. The fourth attack is the most insidious. The Archons implanted what Gnostic texts call the counterfeit spirit directly along the vagus pathway. This parasitic entity mimics divine communication but transmits Archon programming instead. When the soul attempts to access higher guidance through the God nerve, it often receives the counterfeit spirit's voice instead, teaching obedience to false authority, generating guilt and shame, reinforcing the prison rather than revealing the exit. To repair what the Archons damaged, you must first understand the sacred anatomy Jesus revealed. the vagus nerve emerges from the brainstem at the base of your skull. This is significant. The brainstem is the most ancient part of human neurology. It predates the modifications the Archons made to the thinking mind. In this primitive structure, original divine intelligence still resides. The nerve descends on both sides of the spine through the neck. Jesus taught that this portion connects the heavenly mind to the earthly body. As the nerve passes through the throat, it interfaces with the voice. This is why speaking truth activates the pneumatic pathway, why mantras and sacred sounds were central to mystery school practices. The vibration in the throat stimulates the vagus nerve directly. Continuing downward, the nerve sends branches to the heart. This is the most critical juncture. The heart is not merely a pump, as modern medicine claims. It is an electromagnetic generator producing a field 60 times stronger than the brain. And the vagus nerve is the wire connecting heart intelligence to conscious awareness. When Jesus taught the kingdom of heaven is within you, he was indicating this exact location. The heart center, where divine frequency enters through the activated God nerve. Below the heart, the nerve extends into the belly. The gut contains more neurons than the spinal cord. Ancient texts called this the lower brain. The vagus nerve links this visceral intelligence to higher consciousness. This is why you feel truth in your gut before your thinking mind understands it. The pneumatic knowing travels up the God nerve from the belly to the heart to the brain. But the pathway also works in reverse. Divine light can descend from the crown, through the brainstem, down the vagus nerve, illuminating the heart and belly with direct gnosis. This bidirectional flow creates a complete circuit, a closed loop that the Archons cannot penetrate. Jesus taught that when this circuit activates, the pneumatic soul becomes self-sustaining, no longer dependent on external validation, external teachers, external anything. The connection to the monad flows continuously through the God nerve, and in that state, you cannot be controlled, cannot be manipulated, cannot be harvested. You become too bright for the Archons to approach. Jesus condensed the God nerve activation into 3 practices, simple enough for anyone to perform yet powerful enough to restore the connection the Archons severed. The first practice is the humming meditation. You sit in stillness with spine naturally erect. Take a deep breath through your nose, filling your lungs completely. Then, as you exhale, you create a continuous humming sound. Not loud, just gentle vibration you can feel in your skull, throat, and chest. The frequency of the hum matters less than the consistency. What you are doing is sending vibration along the entire length of the vagus nerve. The sound waves massage the nerve back into coherence, stimulate the damaged sections, clear the interference patterns the Archons implanted. Jesus taught his disciples to practice this humming for the duration of 21 breaths each morning. By the 7th day, they would begin feeling a warmth along the spine and a pressure at the heart center. These are signs the God nerve is awakening. The second practice is the cold water immersion. The vagus nerve responds powerfully to controlled exposure to cold. When you place your face in cold water and hold your breath, the nerve activates what ancients called the diving response. Heart rate slows, consciousness sharpens, the boundaries between thinking mind and divine knowing become transparent. Jesus often withdrew to rivers and pools for extended periods. The apostles thought he was simply bathing or praying, but he was practicing vagus nerve activation through cold water. You can replicate this by filling a bowl with the coldest water you can access. Lean forward, place your face completely under the surface, and hold for as long as comfortable. When you emerge, that tingling clarity you feel is the God nerve firing at increased capacity. The third practice is the heart-centered breathing Jesus taught specifically for pneumatic souls. You place one hand on your chest over your heart. As you breathe slowly and deeply, you maintain all awareness focused on the sensation under your palm. You visualize breath entering and exiting directly through the heart, rather than through the nose and mouth. This redirects conscious attention to the vagus nerve's primary junction point and strengthens the connection between heart intelligence and thinking mind. The moment the vagus nerve begins functioning at its intended capacity, reality shifts. Not metaphorically, literally. Your perception of the world transforms because you are receiving information that Archon-controlled 5 senses cannot detect. The first change pneumatic souls report is an overwhelming sense of coming home, a recognition that settles deep in the chest. You realize the separation you have felt your entire life was not because you were broken or wrong or spiritually deficient. It was because the communication line to your true nature was severed, and now the connection is restoring. The second change is the dissolution of fear. not through willpower or positive thinking, but through direct knowing that flows up from the belly through the heart to the mind. Fear is an Archon weapon. It only works when consciousness believes it is isolated and vulnerable. But when the God nerve opens, and you feel the monad's presence flowing through your own nervous system, fear loses its grip. You understand at a cellular level that you cannot be destroyed because you are not this temporary body. The third change is spontaneous access to forbidden knowledge. Information begins arriving that you never learned through conventional means. Details about the Archon control system, insights into the true nature of reality, memories of existence before this incarnation. The God nerve functions as a direct download channel, and once activated, the monad transmits what you need to know when you need to know it. The fourth change is immunity to mass formation. When the collective consciousness gets swept into hysteria or false belief systems, activated pneumatic souls remain unaffected. The vagus nerve provides alternative information that contradicts the official narratives. You can observe the madness without being pulled into it. The fifth change is visible to others, though they cannot explain what they are seeing. Your electromagnetic field strengthens. Your presence becomes magnetic. People are drawn to you without knowing why. Some feel comforted, others feel threatened. This is the pneumatic light shining through the God nerve, becoming perceptible even to those who lack the awareness to understand what they are witnessing. The Archons recognize this signature immediately, and they deploy their agents to disrupt, discredit, or neutralize anyone radiating monad frequency through an activated vagus pathway. The moment you begin practicing the God nerve activation techniques, expect resistance. The Archons have sophisticated detection systems that alert them when a pneumatic soul starts repairing the severed connection. Their response follows predictable patterns. The first interference is amplification of doubt. You will practice the humming meditation or cold water immersion, and immediately a voice in your head will declare, "This is stupid, pointless, too simple to work. This is not your authentic thought." This is Archon broadcasting through the counterfeit spirit they implanted along your vagus pathway. The way to distinguish true inner voice from Archon interference is location. Your genuine knowing arises from the heart and belly. Archon thoughts originate in the head and carry a quality of judgment and urgency. The second interference is physical disruption. You will set time aside for the practices and suddenly urgent matters arise. Someone needs you immediately. An unexpected problem demands attention. Your schedule becomes chaotic right when you committed to consistent vagus nerve activation. This is not coincidence. The Archons manipulate the external environment to prevent you from establishing the routine that would restore your divine connection. The solution is inflexible commitment. Practice at the same time every day, regardless of what else demands your attention. The Archons will eventually stop deploying these disruptions when they realize they are not working. The third interference is emotional amplification. Old traumas resurface. Relationships become turbulent. You feel intense sadness, anger, or anxiety with no clear cause. This happens because the vagus nerve activation is clearing the emotional blockages the Archons installed to keep the pathway damaged. The feelings are not new problems. They are old poisons surfacing to be released. The fourth interference is spiritual bypassing. You will encounter teachers, books, or practices claiming to offer easier or more advanced methods. The Archons know humans are susceptible to the illusion that something more complex must be more powerful. But Jesus taught simple practices because simple works. The God nerve activation requires no elaborate rituals, expensive equipment, or exotic knowledge. Just consistent application of the three basic techniques. Any system claiming you need additional components is Archon misdirection, designed to pull you away from what actually functions. Jesus promised his disciples that if they faithfully practiced the God nerve activation, they would know the Father directly, not believe in the Father, not hope for the Father. No, this is the promise extended to all pneumatic souls willing to restore the connection the Archons damaged. The vagus nerve is not the only pathway to the monad, but it is the most accessible while embodied in flesh. It is the bridge between matter and spirit that exists within your own biology. The Archons could not remove it without destroying the human vehicle. So they damaged it instead, made it function at minimal capacity, convinced humanity it was merely a physical nerve with mundane functions. But now you understand the truth. This wandering nerve that touches your brain, throat, heart, and belly is the pneumatic pathway, the golden thread, the Jacob's ladder connecting earth to heaven within your very flesh. When you commit to the three practices, when you hum through 21 breaths each morning, When you immerse your face in cold water to activate the diving response, when you breathe with focused awareness on your heart center, you are doing what Jesus did. You are repairing what the Archons broke, and with each day of practice, the connection strengthens, the static clears, the signal from the monad grows stronger. You begin to live from a different source, not from the reactive patterns the Archons programmed, not from the fear and desire they amplify to harvest loosh, but from the deep knowing that rises through the activated God nerve, direct, clear, unmistakable. This is gnosis, not intellectual understanding but embodied recognition. And once the vagus pathway fully opens, the Archons lose their primary control mechanism. They can still observe you, still deploy their agents against you, but they cannot make you forget who you are, cannot convince you their false light is real, cannot trap you in another cycle of reincarnation. The God nerve, functioning as designed, makes you ungovernable, and every pneumatic soul who activates this pathway weakens the entire prison system. If the God nerve activation resonates in your chest, you know what to do. Begin the practices tonight. Declare in the comments, I activate the pneumatic pathway.